Welcome back to NTV News First Edition. A new national report called Soundcheck is putting a spotlight on mental health in Canada's music industry, and the numbers are hard to ignore. The study shows that anywhere from 50 to 86% of people working in the music industry are dealing with significant mental health challenges, far higher than the general Canadian workforce. Financial instability, irregular hours, performance pressure, and even a lack of workplace support all play major roles in this. Well, joining me to discuss all the findings in this Soundcheck report is, of course, Dr. Janine Hubbard in this week's Get Psyched. Thank you so much for coming in. You and I kind of talked about the study that went into this report about a year ago. Yep. So what did it find?
So it's interesting. So about a year ago, they had some preliminary information on just a couple hundred respondents, and they were actually looking for more participants. Now they've interviewed over, I think it was 1,200 participants across the country, and not just performers, but anybody in the industry. And I have to say, I'm not aware of any other industry that's reporting mental health challenges at these levels. Something like 95% of respondents noticed mental health struggles in colleagues. Co-workers, and they were saying, we don't know what to do about this. Things like suicidal thoughts, again, we're at 40–50% of participants. This is so much higher than any other industry I'm aware of, and I'm really hoping, I'm delighted that this study has happened, and it's Canadian, but certainly this is a call to action if ever I've seen one.
Why do you think it's happening? Why do you think?
Well, when you start to, when you stop, like I say, those numbers were staggering. Then I stopped to think about it. It's like, right, of course, you have an unpredictable schedule. You have unpredictable finances. There is huge pressure in terms of, in terms of workplace demands, and you're always either working for yourself or you're dealing with different management. The late hours often mean you're not necessarily having as much time with your family or your support network. You're surrounded in an environment that has a lot of substance use. Like I say, it just really is this perfect storm that once you stop and think, it's like, oh, right, of course. Something else that makes perfect sense when I think about it, I think it was something like 40% of participants reported long-standing issues like ADHD. Another 22% reported like chronic pain conditions, arthritis. I mean, these are things that are going to have a major impact on your ability to function in the workplace, and they don't get talked about, and they certainly don't get supported. It's also an industry most people are self-employed, so there is no extended insurance plan or employee assistance plan, through your HR department. So a really vulnerable group that doesn't have kind of that basic level of support available to them.
Well, many of them have not had a raise, really, in about 30 years. What they get paid for gigging in a downtown bar is what they got paid probably 20, 30 years ago.
And they're paying for parking that they're having to find themselves. We heard that, and lugging all their gear. And so, even the stress of where am I going to park? How am I going to get there? Am I going to spend my night's salary on paying a parking ticket?
That's right. And if they're sick, they don't get paid.
And let's face it, this is a group that, when asked to volunteer to donate their time or their skills for some good cause, they're the first stepping forward. So I'm really hoping, like I say, let's look at this as a rallying call, because we know how important this industry is to us here in this province, let alone across the country.
This may be difficult to answer, but if you could pick one or two changes that would make the biggest difference for people working in the industry, what would they be? And of course, it's the reason I say it's difficult is because they have to work these kind of hours. They have to stay up late. They have to lug gear. They have to find parking. So what can we do? Well,
I'm hoping there are some of the organizations. Some of it is even just talking about what is a psychologically healthy workspace, increasing some of the conversations. There was a call here saying people wanted education and training. How do I intervene if I'm concerned about somebody? What are some coping tips I can have myself? Again, if you look at some of the larger organizations, whether it's the George Street Association, whether it's Music NL, whether it's something nationally, maybe you're exploring things like extended insurance or EFAP, like a group plan that at least provides you with some access to whether it's mental health training and or again, just that awareness, some of that appreciation. I certainly would encourage anyone who is listening, because it's often not talked about, reminder 811 and Bridge the Gap here in the province can at least get you started with connecting you to some services. Again, even accessing counselors, if you happen to have one, is challenging. If you're out of province, if you're on a different sleep schedule, like there are just, it's the perfect storm. But certainly I am hoping we're going to see some kind of institutional support. We're going to see some ways of looking at it differently.
Dr. Janine Hubbard, as you know, I am married to a musician, so you know, I see all of these numbers, and I'm worried. I'm not worried about him; he seems to be fine. But
Yep.
I am worried about the industry as a whole, and what we can do to help them. So
Yep.
thank you so much for coming in, and I'm sure it is a discussion that will be continuing in the future.
Absolutely.